Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the long term Angie's Advice for Agents. I don't know if I would call it necessarily advice, but maybe more of a conversation. I will that we like to have with one another. And okay, well, actually, it's a podcast, right? So that's a little one sided. Um, but it's my February podcast, and I have to tell you, I think I titled this one Concierge Care or the Concierge Level. And I feel like I need to be a little transparent with you this morning because I feel like this is going to be more of um, listen to Angie rant for a moment because I don't know how many of you out there are experiencing claims, which kind of does tie us back to that whole concierge level at the insurance companies. But how many of you are helping your clients go through and try to get on claim with their long-term care policy? And of course, most of the time, we're dealing with a traditional policy, right? I mean, it's not that you can't go on claim with a life or a hybrid or an annuity, but obviously most of the policies that we wrote, 10, 15, 20 years ago, they were all traditional based policies. So I want to start off talking about some claims data that I received from an insurance company. And then I kind of want to talk around what I've been personally experiencing with other agents and their clients going on claim, and kind of my frustration points and my sticking points. And maybe, if you will, that'll lend itself into a little bit of advice of how you can better assist your clients navigate through the claims process, because it's really not that easy. Remember, when we sell insurance, a long-term care and extended care plan to someone, they're not the ones typically managing their claim. Somebody else, whether it be a spouse or the responsible child or a friend or the durable power of attorney, somebody else is typically making that phone call to say, hey, look, this is what's going on with mom. We need to kind of look into her long-term care policy. So I've got some fun little statistics, if you will, and bear with me on this one because I think this one's kind of funny. You have to listen carefully or you're going to kind of catch the humor in it. 100% of policies never placed in force will pay a benefit. Now, you're probably sitting there going, Angie, your long-term care humor is just weird. But that's true, right? So you can't help them navigate through the claims waters if there's no insurance policy in place. So we have to do our job. And that's, if you will, my way of basically saying we got to get out there and have more conversations with consumers on how are they going to protect their family from an emotional and financially devastating situation when someone needs care. The good thing about these hybrid policies or these linked benefits where it's a life insurance or it's an annuity-based contract, right? Here's another fun statistic for you. 100% of those policies that are in force will pay a benefit to either an insured or their family. So that would probably lend why we're seeing so many less sales in the traditional space and why we're seeing such a rise in the life long-term care combo products, whether you call them linked benefits or hybrid products or annuity-based solutions. And I've got a little bit that I want to talk to you about on that, on some of the players that are out there, how many are in each one of those silos. So we've also got some other statistics, like 73% of claims are for females, which I get a lot of questions around when I'm actually building plans for people. They want to know why the female rate is so much higher. Why do females pay so much more for long-term care insurance than men do? Well, there's your reason, right? 73% of the people going on claim with this particular insurance company are females. We live longer typically, traditionally, and so therefore we're the ones that don't have that built-in caregiver for us. And one thing I think a lot of us forget too is as we age, so do our children. So the idea that your kids will take care of you, remember, every year you have a birthday, they do too. 84 is the average age of a claim. Of course, we kind of start talking around, people go on claim anywhere between 79 and 82. This insurance company sees that more around 84. 103 is the oldest age for a claim. So that's interesting. There's some news channels that'll actually celebrate centurions, those folks that are turning 100, and we seem to have a lot more of them. I've got a lady in my church right now, little Miss Helen, and she is 101. And I'm not going to tell you she's as sharp as a tack anymore, and she'll openly admit that. She doesn't drive. But she's in an assisted living facility, but she lives independently. She's not necessarily in need of care, but she still gets out. She still dresses herself. She still looks sharp, and she still likes to come in and give everybody hugs on Sunday. 55% of claims are cognitive. And little Miss Helen, back to her, that's 101, she will openly admit to you that her memory's not as good as it used to be. Well, you know what? When we live that long, I can understand why. I mean, you've used your brain for a long time. I can completely respect and understand and empathize with why our memory. I know I personally witnessed that slowing down of the memory recall in my own mother when she turned at about 70. Now, my mom had a lot of health concerns. So, but I do kind of see that traditionally. I've got a mother-in-law that's a little older than 70, 73, I believe. And you can see the recall and the cognition slowing down in that aspect. But again, she's got some health concerns as well. So the fact that Helen didn't actually see her cognition slow down until she was in her 90s, it's just a difference of the person and their genetics and their well-being. Another one, 32% of claims start with home care. We have a lot of folks that don't want to go to the nursing home. And you don't have to build a long-term care policy designed to pay for nursing home care. Now, keep in mind, I mean, we all don't get to have the care where we want the care. Sometimes our health is going to dictate whether or not we can stay at home. Do we actually have support care? Because 24 hours a day, home health care is very expensive. So sometimes it's just not feasible that we can actually stay at home. 244 months and counting is the longest claim for this insurance company. I think this one is, these statistics came out right around the Super Bowl. They're a fun little fact. 11.3 million pounds of potato chips are going to get eaten during the Super Bowl. It's probably true. So, I find this care concierge level, even though these insurance companies put out all their claims data, a little bit more from this insurance company, in 2022, this particular insurance company had over 2,000 claims received and reported to them. In 2022, they paid out over $64 million worth of claims dollars. So it is certainly by no stretch is it that these policies aren't paying benefits. It's more along the lines of what's the insurance company and how do they provide that care? So it was interesting. This particular insurance company, since 1989, $585 million have been paid since 1989. So, it speaks to the volume that these insurance companies that write extended care plans, whether it's life, annuity, long-term care, traditional, they pay claims. But how many of you have experienced putting someone on claim? And I guess that's kind of my rant today is a lot of the agents that sold policies 20, 25 years ago, those agents are starting to retire. And so they're like, hey, I know Angie's still there at Producers XL. Give her a call. She can help you navigate through these waters. And I'm not dealing with the family that bought the policies. I'm dealing with the kids. The kids are my age, or a little bit older. And I will tell you something that is so frustrating is, and I personally experienced this because I had one go so far as the power of attorney, which was the daughter of her mom and dad. I mean, just you got to empathize for a moment. We have a daughter in her 60s. She's got both her mom and dad in need of care. Both have long-term care insurance policies. She's got one in the hospital one in assisted living. Dad has to elevate to skilled nursing. Mom comes out of the hospital and goes home. She's not doing very well. They try to get her back into assisted living with dad. Claim got denied. Mom had to come back out and go back home. Mom went back into the hospital, back home, back into the hospital. And in that same time, the daughter doesn't feel like dad is receiving the care in that nursing home that he should be. So she's now taking dad from one facility and moving him to another facility. Just for a moment, put yourself in that daughter's shoes. And now she's having to deal with Medicare, an insurance company, and trying to work with these different facilities and get all of this taken care of for her two parents that she loves. And she's trying to make sure they're getting the best possible care, because it really truly is about love and dignity as we move into the later stages of life. And she doesn't understand a word, the lingo that the facilities are using with her. She's definitely not understanding the language the insurance company is saying. And so she signs a form that says, just talk to Angie, talk to her. I don't. So I make a phone call to the insurance company. And of course, now I'm talking insurance language back to insurance company. How do we make this? And maybe, I don't know, we call it concierge levels at the insurance companies. Well, I got to tell you, I'm not experiencing that. The last phone call I made to that particular insurance company, I basically said, look, I am just making a phone call. I first want to establish that you see my name on the friends and family form and that you're able to speak with me. I had to validate a ton of information. And then I said, do you see my name on that form? And she snapped back at me and she goes, I see it. What is your question? And I thought, what if I was the daughter managing the stress load of two parents that are obviously ailing, and someone's going to snap back at her when she simply just needs to say, I'm moving my dad from one facility to another facility, and I need you to know what his new address is and where he's at, so that we can have the least amount of time from moving him from one facility to a new, so the claims payments don't end up with a massive gap in schedule. And so I say to her, I just need to give you the address of where he's living. That I had to spell the word cascade 4 times. And spelling that I got to tell you, it was so frustrating to me, because how does one get through that process? It was absolutely insane to me. So anyway, I got that done. I got her moved in. I gave him the address. I guess a little bit of my rant today, talking about this whole claims process. For you as the agent, you absolutely have to understand what this process looks like. You've got to understand that there has to be an initial phone call. And for the most part, right, I used to say, as an agent, you can make that phone call, but you also need to know everything that's going on. You need to know where, when did care start? Were we in the hospital? It's truly best if someone that's in the family or the person that's power of attorney, that person really needs to make that phone call. But you then, as their agent, need to guide them and instruct them that durable power has to be in place, or they're not going to speak to them either. So it gets to be super tricky navigating through those waters to begin with. Once you finally make that initial call, they're going to send out claims packet information, or they're going to go get medical records after you've given them all the doctor's information or the facility of where they're at. Well, what we don't realize is that they're going to go pull doctor's records, but they're also going to go pull the nursing home records, because they want to see what they're saying. And I had this claim experience where the husband was on claim in assisted living. Mom wanted to go on claim in assisted living, but they denied her because the records at the nursing home indicated that she was still living independently. but the doctor's records did use the words chronically ill, but those two weren't matching up. So the claim was denied, not once, but twice. So it was very frustrating for the family. And I, being kind of stuck in the middle, had to explain how that can happen. So you got to file the forms, you got to make sure everything's there. And then the poor family member that's on the other end of the phone, they just got to ask a lot of questions because insurance companies talk in insurance language. So I kind of want to make and I know some of you are going to come at me and probably not be really happy with what I'm going to say here, but I guess I now understand why so many people are pivoting over to different types of insurance solutions. And it's not because traditional long-term care insurance isn't good insurance. I own it myself. But I understand why people are moving to something maybe different. And when I say that, I mean hybrids or linked benefits, or dare I even say indemnity-based contracts. All you have to have is documentation that says they're 2 out of 6, 90-day expectation need of care. Depending on the carrier, does it have to be permanent? Can it be, not a permanent situation? I got to tell you, there's a little bit of me and it doesn't matter when anybody says to me, Angie, what's the best long-term care solution that's out there? I'm not going to give you the name of a product. I'm going to tell you it's an indemnity contract. Why? Because you're not sending in reimbursement bills. They're just going to write you a check once you're deemed claim eligible based on the definition of that particular insurance company. That doesn't mean, however, that a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider that requires you to have your long-term care certification training, that requires bills to be sent in for, that doesn't mean those are inadequate or not sufficient or not good. I'm just coming from pain points. How do families navigate through that with the least amount of pain points? And I have found indemnity seems to be that way. Dare I also say, it's time for us to think a little bit even more outside the box. Have you explored short-term care? I know it only covers 360 days of care with a one-time reset restoration of benefits after, 180 consecutive days. Some contracts do that, some don't. There's no standardization around short-term care. You're not going to get no. Price points are there. There's a lot of insurance companies out there right now, even some getting into the space that carry real high A ratings. Those are worth looking at. Don't discount them because they're not long-term. If somebody buys into short-term care, but they tell you that they have a family history of dementia, or, my Aunt Mary was on claim for, 3.5 years or what, then pivot into a longer benefit period. But you've got short-term care policies that pay in conjunction with Medicare. So if Medicare is paying for their home health care, they can still collect under this if they're still needing assistance with ADLs. My mother-in-law would have been able to collect a couple of months of benefits under a short-term care when she went through a bout where she truly could not. We had to private pay a nurse to go into her house 3 times a week for a couple hours a day. So I can see the validity of how those would work and how they can be strong partners, if you will. If you have to sell a short-term care and then maybe go into a smaller policy for a long-term care state. Just what about cancer, heart, stroke policies? Those are leading causes of claim for long-term care. What about buying just a real big, fat, beefy cancer, heart, stroke policy? Maybe that's where critical illness makes its footprint in America. We talk about cross-selling in that Medicare space, dental vision, things that Medicare doesn't cover. Cancer, heart, strokes right up there. Short-term care is definitely right up there, right? You're filling the gaps that Medicare doesn't cover. And those are the conversations you're having at age 65 or beyond, depending on when they're ready to go into that Medicare situation. But you have to disclose to them what Medicare doesn't cover. Doesn't cover long-term care for an extended once you're chronically ill. That's where you start having those conversations. I also, I could probably talk for a long time about different solutions that we're having. I want to encourage all of you, if you've not put extended care planning or short-term care or explored that in your practice, call me. I don't work with LTC specialists to speak of. So it is my task to bring a solution to you, to your consumers, to your clients that makes sense so that you can actually make the sale with them that fits their needs. I'm not saying insurance is for everybody, but if we don't educate them on what it looks like and what it doesn't look like, some of those policyholders or some of those clients that you have are going to be really, really hot, especially the kids, when they find out that mom and dad could have bought something that would have paid for care without them depleting all of their resources to get that done. That's a little bit, that's me ending my rant. I want a drum roll right now because I do have something that was publicly released yesterday. I don't know how this is going to be received, to be honest with you. And I encourage you, if you want to have a conversation with me, my phone number is 1-800-541-6705. 1-800-541-6705. Email Angie at producers, XL like extra large.com. Drum roll. I saw a release yesterday that I've also seen on social media that says Genworth hopes to stabilize long-term care business by 2026. Guys, there is talk that Genworth could be coming back into the long-term care space. I'm curious what you think about that. I'm curious if they came up with a solution, would you sell it? I'm curious how you feel about all that's going on right now with them. I think it's interesting right now. It says Tom McInerney, the CEO of Genworth, said security analyst that Genworth has received state regulated approvals for 28 billion of 33 billion in LTCI premium increases. So they're looking to stabilize those blocks and come back in and sell new business. So I don't want to say you heard it here first, but maybe you've not heard it before. And I will definitely keep you all abreast as to what that's going to look like or what that could look like, when that's going to happen. But that could be interesting. Definitely going to cause a stir in that long-term care space. There is a long-term care conference, I believe, that runs next month. Yeah, in March. And I'm sure it will be all the buzz. So with that, thank you for joining me for my February podcast. The next one is March 26th. That one I may take a little different turn on this because I also have to be in Oklahoma City for a Medicare University that day. So who knows what we'll be talking about at that point. But do mark your calendars. The last Tuesday of every month, I've got 2 back-to-back podcasts in April and May that you are definitely going to want to tune in for. Now, remember, if you don't catch them live, I always record them and I put them up on our website, which is producersxl.com. And you can go grab them out of our video center out in our website. So you can listen to them on demand if you don't catch them here live. So you don't ever have to miss them. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. So I want to thank all of you for joining me. Finish out February strong, and March is going to end up round out, I guess, if you will, the last month of the quarter of 2024. And we'll talk to you all later. Thanks. Bye.